And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Hassan Thompson, host at Educator's House, and we're here for a doozy. I hope you guys are ready and strapped in because we want to talk about screens and their impact on our kids' development. And so I'm excited that you guys are here. And as people are filing in, I just want to give greetings to everyone in the live lounge on the audio app, and also to those who can join us here on YouTube. I'm going to go ahead and share the link to the YouTube so that it can be available in case anyone on the audio app wants to tap into our live stream. Perhaps you're a visually stimulated person. Perhaps you know that you're going to be in listen only and would appreciate that extra layer. You can definitely join us for the live stream. We've got some serious things happening today. We are, just for context, if you're just joining us, we are in the midst of a multi-part series where we're looking at the impact of screens on our kids' development, in particular on their brain development. So if you haven't done so, you can go check out the beginning of our multi-part series and get all the way caught up over there on YouTube. But if you are interested in just jumping in, the water is warm and we're not pulling any punches. So I'm glad that you're here, and I am going to lay just a little bit of groundwork if you want to check this out, just so that you understand how the conference is going to work. And then I will invite our special guest up. But let's start from the beginning. So welcome everybody to the space. If you're new, what I'd like you to know is, oh, wait a minute, for my YouTube crew, I have a screen to share. So let me switch this up and let you know who we've got. I have on deck, give me 1 second. If you're watching YouTube, you'll appreciate this. But on deck, we have our special guest, Annette Serwanga. She and I are going to be unpacking this phenomenon of growing up on the algorithm and some of the impacts and some of the tips that we can offer to those of you who are in this space or concerned about maybe kids or kids that you care about, what is happening to them and what can we do about it. So as we move forward, I've got a teacher background. Don't shame me, but I do. And we've got a couple SWBATs from my fellows in the field. So by the end of this conference, you should be able to both identify and explain the developmental stages that are affected by early screen exposure through a variety of stages of child development. And then what we also want you to do is to be able to look at screen time's role on their emotional and cognitive development as well, and then be able to apply some realistic strategies in terms of finding that proper balance. Excuse me. And that's been our challenge, is how do you find that proper balance? Because these screens are not going anywhere. They ain't going anywhere. So what are we going to do? Let me tell you a little bit about Educator's House. We're on a mission to develop a model for advanced professional development by centering the voices of our frontline professionals through collaboration, innovation, and impact. Professionals in the space, so that you can identify if that's you, would include educators of all stripes, not just teachers, but administrators, school psychologists, librarians, the entire spectrum of what it means to be an educator. Homeschool parents are included in this. So all of us who are in the professional field of educating, but it also includes parents of school-aged children. And we have seen really rapid growth because there are a lot of people who may not be professionals in the space, but are concerned about what's going on as it relates to screen time. And so you're definitely part of the Educator's House. And of course, advocates for our young people as well are more than welcome and warmly received members of this community. We meet almost every Sunday from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern, but we also meet in the mornings. We have a morning show called Homeroom, which meets at 7 a.m. So we want to be part of your morning commute or your morning routine as you get ready for the workday. We want to empower you with what it's going to take to help you get through, but also to be able to step back and look at the bigger picture of the shifts that are happening in our landscape. While we do welcome special guests, we want to also make sure, our special guest, Annette, but we also always make sure that we center the voices of our community. And so I'm going to send around some invites to some of our trusted community members so that we can get this experience warmed up a bit. So if you've received an invite, please know that this is a no pressure space, but we would certainly love to help set the tone for the conversation that I'll be having with our very own Annette Serwanga. Let me switch this back up. Don't mind me. Don't mind me and my technical problems. All right. Glad to be back. So if you know that you're in the listen only, you can click on the link and join the YouTube live stream. But what I'd like to do for those who may be new to the space is just also explain our rules of engagement and how the conference functions. So a few things to know. Oh, I do have one more slide for that. Let me share this. I'm still working on my clickety-click, so I appreciate your patience. Let's see if I can get to this next one. Here, okay, perfect. Let's switch this here. All right. For those of you that are watching, you can see on the screen, we have basically three primary ground rules. So ground rule number one, because this is a live streamed experience, I am always mindful of what it means to be mindful of the audio experience. So please monitor your background noise. If you're on the train, if you're on the bus, if you're in a loud kitchen, like this is not necessarily the time to join the mic until you get to a place that is a little bit more clean in terms of the audio, because we want to make this a good experience for the replay as well. Secondly, we do have a strict one mic policy. And so those of you who do come onto the mic, I'm going to give you some extended time to lay out your thoughts and land your plane. However, some people can be a bit verbose. So if you see me hit you with the oh, that's so interesting, that might be your soft signal to know that maybe it's time to land your plane. But I will always reserve my moderator privilege just to keep the mic moving for the good of the group. And then finally, for those who are in the listening lounge, some of you may be here for entertainment purposes, but really we're here to attract those who are seriously engaged and interested in this topic. And so I want to invite you to stay fully engaged. How can you do that? By joining the chat. We have seen full-on side conversations happening in the chat. So if you could go ahead and greet the chat now, just to let us know that you're here and perhaps even where you're calling from, that would be a fantastic way to kind of get the chat warmed up. But I want to encourage you, bring out your chat GPT, do some fact checking. If you come across any links that inspire you by doing the research, add them to the chat so that we can improve the quality of this experience and make sure that it is of professional grade. And so your full engagement in the chat, coming up onto the stage and being part of the conversation are all ways that you can support this room. And also, please ping someone. Let someone know by sharing the links that we are here. I'm going to try to share a few links while the mic is being passed around. But if you could do it on my behalf in the meantime, I would certainly appreciate it. 2, 3, 4 people that you know have that green dot and are on the app currently and would be a benefit to this experience, I would appreciate it if you could send a few words out and let them know that we are going live. All right, so with that, let's see. I will also direct your attention to this link because I have a few poll questions. I've been engaged in a little bit of, let's call it unofficial research, but what I am doing is going to post a link with a few one-question surveys that I would certainly appreciate your feedback on. And so I'm going to drop this link in the chat. Look at Annette, she's already getting started. Y'all, if y'all don't know Annette, she does not play no games, okay? So I appreciate you, and I'm excited to see how this is going to unfold. So that is our ground rules, and I'm going to come back to the main screen, move this out of the way, and do first take. So generally, I have an audio set up, but I just don't have it smooth, so I'm not going to waste too much more of your time. What I'd like to do is to welcome my fellow stage mates who have come up. All of the people who are here are people that I know, like, and trust. And I'm curious if we can together set the tone for where this conversation may unfold. So I'm going to go in order of the order that I see on the stage. So I'm going to start with my fellow co-moderator, Carla, and then we'll move down to Mr. Nolan, Jason, and RJ in that order. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Carla. Welcome to the space. Please feel free to give yourself a small introduction and tell us your first thoughts to the title. The mic is yours. I know that's right. They made seatbelts a law for a reason, because this ride is going to be potentially have a little turbulence and might take some sudden turns. So I'm excited to see where we go as well. My fellow colleague in the education space and a friend of mine on this app, Mr. No One, has also joined us. And so, greetings, sir. Please give us, for those who may not know you, a little introduction and tell us your first thoughts to the topic. Okay, I appreciate that. Jason's giving me some feedback. Both of them are a lot louder than me. Let me see if I can do something about that. Thank you for that, Jason. I'm going to try to make an appropriate adjustment. It's always hard to level the audio because sometimes I'll be way too loud and way too low. So thank you for that. Any feedback would be appreciated. I made a few little fine tunes. So we'll see how your voice sounds. Jason, welcome onto the stage. I'm glad that you're here. If you could take 1 to 2 minutes and give greetings to the room and let me know your thoughts about what it means for our kids to be growing up on the algorithm. If you're ready, sir, the mic is yours. Fantastic. I appreciate that. So the way that it's going to go after we finish these first takes by Mr. RJ and Sister Sue has made it into the building. The community is coming together. I'm so excited to see you here, Sister Sue. Then I'll invite up our featured speaker, Annette Serwanga, and she and I will get a chance to cook for a while. And then after that, we're going to send invites to the entire community in the listening lounge and do more of a moderated popcorn style discussion. And so we're glad to have you here, and we hope that you get some great value out of this experience. So with that said, I'd love to pass it on to Mr. RJ. RJ, welcome to the space, man. I'm so glad that you're here to support what's going on, and I'd love to hear your first thoughts. The mic is yours. Uh, Thank you, RJ. I appreciate it. And hey, little fuzzy one, we appreciate you as well. So, yeah, clearly, Annette, there's some excitement. There's some excitement about what we're going to be talking about, and so I think that this is really at the prime time. We're sort of at the peak of where we're going to go. But honestly, looking forward, there are some more compelling topics that I have coming. So if you haven't done so, please go over to the Instagram and subscribe. And that way, even if you missed a live, you'll be able to get easy access to, to the replays, is what I mean to say. So with that said, I'd love to pass the mic straight to Sister Sue. Sister Sue, I've missed you. Welcome back to the space. And I'm curious what your thoughts are about growing up on the algorithm. First takes, please. The mic is yours. No, thank you for sharing that. Actually, it serves as a perfect segue. If you haven't done so, this might be a good time to just quickly visit a YouTube because I am going to play a clip that came up for me while she was speaking. And while you guys are sliding over there, I will just note that when it comes to what we plan to do moving forward, I have the next time that we come together, we'll be talking about who's to blame for all of this that we face. Is it big tech? Is it the parents' fault? Or maybe it's the bureaucrats for not having proper regulations in place. And then after that, on the following Sunday, we're going to talk about the ed tech dilemma. And so while we hear from Sister Sue that she's using the technology in order to bring forward some of the most important lessons for our child's safety and protection, we also wonder whether or not these ed tech companies are really in it for big business or are they actually using it to benefit our kids? Because I haven't seen a textbook in years. And then in the last piece, last segment of this multi-part series, we're going to be looking at gaming, grooming, and the new frontier of online exploitation, which I think really hits the nail on the head when it comes to what she's experienced. So this particular audio, I just want you to know for the folks on the audio app, it is audio poor. So there's some music playing in the background, but you will be able to pick up what's being put down. The says this is what happens when we give that phone too early. And it's the small short story of a young girl who's received a phone and how she developed over her experience with that phone. And so please enjoy this audio, or you can slide over to the YouTube and watch this in the video format. And what you will hear if you listen closely is exactly what Sister Sue brought up. She wasn't looking for it, but the algorithm fed some inappropriate material to her. Check this out. With her friends, eating breakfast in front of the phone, at school with the phone, on the bus with the phone, watching a movie and the phone, eating and the phone. Her friends all have phones, working the latest dance, sleepy with the phone. Now she looks tired. Oh my goodness. Can't go to sleep watching the phone. I'll let the audio go from here.
Gotta go on.
Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it. I'm sure you did. So it just fed her. And that's what I even noticed with my own son, Sister Sue, was this idea that even when he's playing a game that's clearly designed for kids, there may not be inappropriate content in the game, but an ad will pop up with a scantily clad cartoon woman inviting him to now download the next game or inviting him to check out more, merely exposing him to that level of explicit content, I think is totally inappropriate. But again, where are the regulations and what can we as parents do about it? And so this is going to be a very interesting conversation. I appreciate everybody who has shared the first take. What I'd like to do at this time is give an introduction to our very own featured speaker, Annette Serwanga. So let me slide over to an intro that I have prepared for her. And while I'm doing that, let me copy this, and I'm going to drop it into the chat on YouTube, and I'm going to drop it here in the chat on the app. This is a link to her website at Serwanga Consulting. She has her master's in education. Even though she's originally from California, she's had the great chance of working with a variety of levels of schools, from the individual parent consulting all the way up to school districts and industry level. She's a radio personality, and you can constantly see her out in the field sharing how she is applying what she's learned, not only to others, but she is her own best client because she is applying some of her best practices for her own children. And she's invited us to take her along that journey. And so if you have any interest, I would definitely recommend that you click on that link and book a session with her. She supervised and managed staff and classrooms. In 2017 to 19, she was part of the Teacher Improvement Grant and as a consultant and a coach for a Montessori school in California. She's also supported 3 or more campuses, holding the title of the head toddler teacher. She has been in the Montessori space for some time and has really helped me to understand the value of helping our kids by providing them with that sort of Montessori learning. And I hope that she's going to share some of that while we are together today. And so I'm excited, ladies and gentlemen, to have our very own Annette Serwanga. Welcome to the space, ma'am. How are you? Yeah, let's get into this. So I've laid out sort of how I envision it, and I wonder which way you would like to begin. Would you prefer to lead off and talk about what's happening with our infants and toddlers from birth until, preschool era, or would you like me to first talk about the issues that I have with Coco Melon, and then you'll fill in on where our kids are at? What do you think is the better approach for the audience? Oh shoot! All right, all right, all right. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you have or have been exposed to the algorithm, you might have come across what's going on with Coca Melon. So I'm just going to take 5 to 7 minutes and lay out the very beginning, and just so you know where we're going. Annette and I are going to talk about what's happening with modern technology as it relates to our birth to five, and then we're going to move into that big kid status, and we're going to talk about what's going on during that phase before, let's say, middle school. And then we're going to talk about what's happening in middle school and that pre-adolescence. So that's sort of the journey that we're going to take. And she's invited me to go first. So, I come out punching. Go ahead, Mr. Noah. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Mr. Nolan is obviously not no one. You're somebody to me, sir. So I really appreciate it. I'm humbled by that. And yes, you are invited to join the house. We appreciate it, especially if you get something of value or you appreciate this sort of professional grade space that we as a community are creating here. So I'm going to actually take my criticism. I'm going to call it criticism of Coco Melon all the way back to Sesame Street. So in the 80s, the way that they were trailblazers in their intention to create a television show that could actually teach children how to read. That was their intention. And so they gathered a group of professional grade, childhood psychologists, developmental specialists, and more researchers and the whole like. And there was a team of folks who decided to use some novel ideas in order to help children read, which was a radical idea in and of itself, because you're talking about, the early 80s, I think, when shows like Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood first started launching. And so their intentions were good and their methods were radical. What they started doing was actually bringing kids in as research subjects and having them watch early versions of the show. What they would do is track their attention. So if the student turned their attention away from the screen and maybe started playing with a toy, or if they had, one of the fuzzy characters on the screen, and atop that fuzzy character was the word SAT, right? SAT. If the child was looking more at the funny character, then they would recut that scene and actually have the fuzzy character do something a little bit less exciting so that the child's attention would be drawn to the word. And if the child was looking at, for example, the A or the T in the word, then they would redo that scene again and make the S big and bold. So when you go back and look at those shows and you look at that big S and you see little fuzzy whomever in the corner, all of that was done by design and through an iterative process, because our kids were they were using kids as subjects to see what was going on with the kids' development and their attention. So at the beginning of this radical concept of how to use behavior analysis and technology to motivate kids in order to actually do something good, which was to help the kids to read, But if we fast forward to shows like Coco Melon and others, I'll drop the list of other shows that I'm concerned about, or maybe I'll play the clip because it's a really good one and a really short one towards the end of my share. They have converted that technology, and if you're going to listen to me, bastardized it in order to generate revenue rather than help kids learn to read. And so while you might look at a Coco Melon episode, and a person who's not in the field might say, okay, it's cute, little rhymies and the kids and they're fishing or they're in the park or doing whatever. But when you look at it from a more critical eye, you're going to see that the cut shots are extremely fast. That way the kid doesn't have a chance to have their attention wane because there's something new, something new, something new. Similar with the colors. There are three primary colors, if I'm not mistaken: red, blue, and yellow, I believe, are the primary colors. These are the dominant colors that you see. And I'm not going to go into it, but the psychology of these colors actually draw people in certain ways. And so they dominate with these extra bright primary colors. And they haven't forgotten about the audio landscape either. And so I was just in a room actually with Mr. Nolan and Akasa. They were having a music battle. And so Coco Melon has learned the power of music as well. And they have fine-tuned that music in order to keep your attention to the degree that what you can see, if you were as a parent to play the Coco Melon intro, kids will come from across the room, down the stairs. It's even so deep in their psychology that they will wake up if they're sleeping because they hear that signature sound that comes at the very beginning of the Coco Melon show. So they have fine-tuned how to draw kids' attention. Now, here's the problem, and this is where I'm going to pass it to you, Annette. What they are doing is overstimulating the brain because they have figured out a way to release those dopamine receptors, which draw kids to want to lean in. And at the same time, because they're releasing those dopamine, those cortisols, that serotonin, they're releasing all of these biochemicals inside the brain and body of a little child who can't quite manage it because they don't know what's going on. It can very early on create what I'm concerned about are addictive behaviors in our kids. And so this is a very early intro. It's very problematic for me. And I'll close with this last statistic. The last study that I read shared that 40% of children under 2 have their own, according to the parent, their own tablet or their own screen. And I think that sort of unbridled access to this level of sophisticated technology is certainly a problem for our youngest ones. And so with that said, I'm going to yield over to my colleague here, Annette. And I wonder what you could share as it relates to healthy development or if you want to, how kids are interacting with the screen. But I'm curious where you will lead us. What's going on with our very youngest at that phase of development from your experience? Annette, if you're available, the mic is yours. Yes, that's correct. Mm. No, it does make sense, and I think it sets up a great segue for the next segment. But I wonder, since I have some high quality stage mates here, if anyone wants to weigh in, maybe something came up for you during this very early phase before we move into big kid status. Any thoughts, anything that you guys have seen, observed, or are concerned about that came up for you during our portion of the conversation? If so, I'll just leave this mic open and see if anyone would like to take it and share their thoughts. Woof. Okay, we going there, huh, Sister Sue? All right. Let me offer this as my response, and then if you guys don't mind, I'll move on and I'll bring someone else in during the next segment. And I see you, Miss Amunette. So I'd love to have you weigh in before we get too far. A couple things that came up for me, Annette. One, giving, and parents have self-identified. This is their device, the 40% that I'm talking about. So you're right. An 18-month-old cannot purchase, right? So it is a parent's decision to actually expose their child to this. But as they grow, what we're going to see is what I have seen time and time again, this sense of entitlement. This is my phone, which is why a lot of professional educators have a significant amount of resistance when the teacher attempts to confiscate that phone because it's used inappropriately, let's say in the classroom or whatever the learning setting may be. That student has a lot of resistance because they actually think it's theirs, and that's a real problem for kids. The other thing that came up for me, and I appreciate, before I say my next thought, I appreciate the fact that you gave some clear, measurable guidelines. In our last conference, and you can check out the replay on YouTube, we came up with sort of broad categories in terms of how to determine if there's balance, and some of those categories included how are they doing socially, how are they doing when it comes to managing their other tasks? You know, does this screen time take over? And so by you giving us very clear time frames, I think it was super helpful. So zero time from 18 months. And I know you talked about quality time. And for me, when I think about quality time, it would be like Zooming with grandma who lives out of state would be a appropriate use of screen time as far as I'm concerned, and not so much using the tools for entertainment purposes. And then you also gave us some frames around what should happen around 5 years old. And so that part was really interesting. And to Sister Sue, and then I'll go on to my next segment. To Sister Sue's point, I think you're absolutely right. There was a time, and I have to admit, I'm a digital immigrant because I was born before all of this technology became so ubiquitous in our society. And so I remember a time when we didn't have no choice but to go outside. We come in smelling like outside. We used to play so hard, okay? And if those street lights came on, baby, you better get in the fast forward mode because the neighbors, the aunties, the teachers, they were all co-collaborators in the raising of children. But nowadays, as Sister Sue said, we can't even try to help a parent with correcting her child. And so a lot of times we step back, but then because of that chilling effect, when there are times that we really need to step in, a lot of us say, well, I'm just going to mind my own business. So I think there's a lot to be said about how we have changed as a society since back in the day when I was young. But let me move on to the next phase. So we've kind of covered that, and when we go into popcorn style, it'll be wide open. But let's try to move this conversation forward a bit. We're at 42 minutes after the hour, guys. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I see Mary is in the building. Julie is here. Jenny, Cassie made it. Michelle and Akash, thank you guys for coming. If we offer some value, please consider turning your pink ticket in. And similar over in the chat has been warmed up, so shout out to Carla. She's actually been dropping some real high quality links there. She's got a Google document. In fact, I'm going to put this up because some of you may already know about the YouTube channel. Carla has been so gracious as to keep some notes, and so there's a document that you can see up in the marquee, which might be of great value because she's been sort of collecting these archives over our slow walk down to this topic. Shout out to Akash and Jason also for contributing to the chat. Once the kids get out of this adolescent toddler phase and they move into big kid status, the intensity of the games of these algorithms also change. And so I'm going to shift from what I would call shows that are specifically designed to put our children into a hypnotic, even catatonic state while they're watching this show. Their eyes gloss over. They totally have temper tantrums, like withdrawal symptoms if these devices are taken from them. But once we get them into that older status, now the games have been designed for them to be fully interactive. And so I want to spend my next few minutes talking about games. And in particular, I have my ire on Roblox. Roblox represents a variety of games for me, so it could also include Minecraft. It could also include Fortnite. It could also include a lot of these large, I think they're called MMOs, these massive online games where anybody and everybody can create any avatar they want and present themselves in any way. I have some concerns there because on the one hand, and I've talked to a friend of mine, and he actually gave me some pause, and I think it's appropriate for me to share on his behalf. Games are not all bad. Let's keep that in mind. And in particular for boys. Boys have a particular penchant to play games because I think that boys like to do things dangerous, and they used to be outside doing dangerous things, but now they can be on the game sort of living vicariously in danger. But there's also the opportunity for community. And so if that community is well monitored, then they can be online with their friends. Because, as was mentioned already, we have a rise of social anxiety. For people to be able to connect online is a lot more comfortable for a major minority of our kids these days. So I don't want to totally hate on the game. However, when we see it go to extreme levels where they're supposed to be doing homework, but they would rather be on the game, whether it's a phone game or one of these online games, I have a problem with that. And when it comes to their normal functions, like sleep functions, sleep is great for balancing out our hormones. It's great for our subconscious and our psychology. And so to get an adequate amount of sleep, and my son, if I let him sleep naturally, can get 10 hours in. But he's a very active kid, so he must need those 10 hours. And so to deprive our kids because they're so compelled to swipe on the next screen or to play one more game because they took a big loss or whatever it is, has an interruptive effect when they are expected to be at school at this point at 8 or 8:30 in the morning with their mind on task, but they haven't had adequate sleep. And so they come under ready to learn. And so there's a lot of compounding effects when we think about the fact that our kids are doing these games so much so that they're not living in the three-dimensional world. And so I've got some real concerns about that. And Annette, I'm going to pass it to you, but you know what else is very interesting to me, because my son as an 8-year-old is going right in the middle of this phase of his development. The influence of peers starts to become, I don't know if I'm ready to say more important than me, but certainly more important than it was. And so the social pressure that all of my friends have a phone, Dad, so why can't I have a phone? And my friends are talking about the latest language, the Skibbity Toilet and the Aura score and, you know, their Riz, you know, and he's got this little thing he does and he mews but that's what's happening among his peers. And so he wants to be socially acceptable, but for me as a loving parent, I think in terms of the long term that this is not going to be healthy. And in fact, it's a way to set yourself apart from your peers, which he may not recognize until later. So even well-meaning parents have a lot of challenge when the schools and their peers are not supporting the values that are being expected in the home. So, Annette, what do you see as we move forward into sort of this big kid status? What are your thoughts about that stage of development in the age of the algorithm? Sure. Yeah, yeah. And in the meantime, I'm going to drop your link up at the top of the marquee so folks can check you out. Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, it does make sense. And I hope before we land this conference that we get to talk about how these tools have a different impact on boys than girls. But your point, and then I'll open it up to maybe someone else who wants to weigh in. Maybe Annette might want to jump in at the next stage. Yes, great. Which is you're absolutely right. The It's out there, and there's no, you would be delusional to think that you can shield your kids from access to this technology, because that's sort of like the whole idea of don't put your hand in the cookie jar. All it does is create a compelling need, like, what's in the cookie jar? What if I do put my hand in the cookie jar, you know? And so drawing such resistance to that technology makes the kids want to find out why their parent, their loved one who they trust, is so resistant to this. And so it might end up having an opposite effect. And so I like what you said about empowering them with the knowledge and this sort of meta level of understanding about the landscape that they have to navigate rather than forcing them to figure it out on their own. Annette and Stefan Youngblood joined us up on the stage. I'm glad that you guys are here. I'll start with Annette. What's come up with you for you so far? I'm very interested in you weighing in on our conversation. The mic is yours. Pew, 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 pew. Go back there. Go there. The mic is yours. Mm. Yep. Mm. Mm. Well, you wasn't lying. You could cook for an hour. Give me this microphone back, woman. No, I appreciate you. And we're going to open it up for the moderated discussion so everybody will get a chance to weigh in. But there was something that you said. There's actually a lot of things that I took notes on. But I want to acknowledge that she's right. Games have been around since like forever, hyperbolically speaking, right? We have always found pleasure in playing games. The distinction between games of old and games of today, though, however, in my mind, are really quite clear. Because when you get a bunch of kids around playing games, there are some things that happen in the process of that game. For example, they have to negotiate, right? I know it might be in a more adult reference, but are we playing big joker, little joker, or big joker, little joker, deuce, deuce? You know, like we have to lay down the ground rules for the game, and we're going to negotiate that. Kids do the same thing. You know, if we're going to play laser light, imaginary tag with some cardboard, you know, where's the out? Where's the safe zone? Where's the out, right? So the kids have to get together and negotiate with one another in terms of the rules of the game. And when a rule is broken, they have to have that courage to call it out, right? Unfair, you were not safe, you tagged me twice or whatever. However the kids negotiate that. These are critical skills that they're developing over the course of time. And of course, all these kids have such imaginations if we allow them to flourish. And so they've also got the opportunity to create new rules and extension rules onto the game. The problem that I have with these technological games is that none of those things are able to take place. The rules of the game are already set and structured, right? And they are just players in a game rather than creators of the game and the possibilities that a game can have. And so while we might be using the same word, it certainly is not the same experience. Stefan, do you mind if we push forward? Is there something pressing that you want to weigh in on before we go to the last segment? Yeah, I appreciate you, sir. Okay, I know Annette and I are doing these little short vignettes, but we want to create a scope so that when we open up the stage, and I'm going to send invitations down to Cass, Mary, Julie, Denzel, and Maria. No pressure, but if you want to come up and join the second part of our conversation, you're welcome to do so. Let's move forward, Annette, into this next phase, this pre-adolescence phase, right? Just before they get towards puberty, or maybe just at the very beginnings of puberty. And all of us have been there. That hormone revolution is a challenging place to navigate. Okay, no, ma'am, I do not want to stand up and go to the board. My fellas might know what I'm talking about back in those days. Okay, so I'm gonna sit right here, but I can answer from the seat. And so when I think about what's already happening in their bodies, I think about, again, this growing influence of their peers and their peer group. And what came up for me when that first made its way onto the stage was my role to curate their friend group and not passively allowing them to decide on their own, but actually being actively involved in their peer group, meeting their kids' friends' parents and being their friends, so that, we're all sitting in our beach chairs while they're out there playing, like that kind of a healthy group where we really create a sense of community. But as they get older and older, I want to move over to the algorithm. And Stefan and I have spent our fair amount of time looking at both the algorithm and artificial intelligence. And so when we think about their influence, there are a couple of things that come up for me. Now, keep in mind, in the worst case pathway, this fictitious child that we're talking about has already been influenced by Coco Melon and has had their this hyper-suggestibility already opened up for them. Then they move into the games where their thumbs are tapping, and they're swiping. So they're kind of stuck in this game world, which moves them out further away from the 3D world. And then comes social media. And this might be a good time to talk about the different impact between boys and girls. But the influence of social media, I think, is very strong. We have all had it. Maybe not. Everybody on the stage except for me, I'm sure, has perfect management and control over the algorithm. And you have no experience with the doom scroll at 9 o'clock when you're supposed to be in bed and you look up and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I know none of you fine folk have no experience like that. I know when you get on your favorite game, you just play one game like you intended. You're not sitting on the toilet with your legs numb because you played 3, 4, 5, 6 games. Your bathroom's all steamed up because you thought you was getting in the shower 30 minutes ago. Nobody knows nothing about that. You fine folks. So imagine if we have that problem. We're compelled to play one more game, to swipe one more unknown video. We have that experience of euphoria when it's like, what's going to come next? Well, what I want you to know is that the algorithm is watching us. Every swipe, how long we spend on any particular video feeds the algorithm's information. The type of videos that we watch gets fed into the algorithm, and it fine tunes I was actually looking at a TikTok study. I'm going to try to pull it into the chat because I have it in one of these windows, but I don't want to lose track of being present for this conversation. But if I'm not mistaken, TikTok has, I believe, 34 or maybe 340 million posts every 24 hours. Out of those millions and millions of posts, the algorithm needs to figure out which 10 or 12 are going to be the top ones that can hook you for the next 2 or 3 hours. And so they're going to filter based on all of your patterns. There are some actually that watch what you type, your search. They will track that and create an entire profile. If you think that the CIA and the FBI does a good job at creating a psychographic profile of you, let me introduce you to the algorithm. And so it has a chance not only to feed you, but also direct you. And so it can create an echo chamber of what's real. And I'm not afraid to talk about what Sister Sue brought up. I'm going to lean in even more. The issue of pornography, it bastardizes, it corrupts what actual real intimacy could look like. And so for our boys, and I'll land with this and I'll pass it to you, Annette, then we can open up to the stage. For our boys, there was a study, it may have been fictitious because I haven't validated this particular piece of data, but it says that 94% of boys under the age of 18 have had exposure to sexual content. And 4% of the boys don't have access to a phone. So the vast majority of access to this comes through the phone, and that early exposure can create an interest that they may not be ready to manage. On the other side, for the girls, and also I'll say that the boys get into gaming, and like girls might get into doom scrolling on social apps, boys get into doom gaming and will game for 15 hours, without stop sometimes. And so it can be very problematic. I know I'm going past the adolescent phase, but I just want to let you guys know what can come in the future. There is not data enough to say causation, but there is certainly enough building research to suggest correlation between the fact that our boys are less educated, they are less likely to graduate college than they have before, and compared to girls. So both are true. Even though technically as a stereotype, we do make more money, but that gap is also closing. And there's a large criticism that I've come across that says a lot of it has to do with the influence of these games. And so these games are extinguishing the typical, what is now being called toxic, male interest in adventure, in danger, in thriving, in being a hero of their own life. They can get it vicariously in the game. And as Annette said, they don't have to do much in order, they don't actually have to slay the dragon or the dragon within in order to be the better version of themselves. They can get that vicarious experience. And then for our girls, we have seen an increase in suicide rates among teen girls. We see an increase in online bullying because of these girls. I came across a video that talks about how girls are so mean to each other. There have been girls who were apparently friends, but end up setting up their girlfriends to murder them or to leave them in a place where they could be exposed to significant danger. And so what's happening in this girl world is a real problem, not only for them amongst themselves, but also for their own idea of self-image. And I'll close with this, and I'll pass it to you, Annette, and then we can open it up. There was a study, and I'll bring it up when I talk about the online grooming, but there was a study that says as girls start deleting their selfies because maybe it didn't get traction or whatever, the algorithm recognizes rapid deletion on teenage girls' social profiles, and it actually queues up advertisements for beauty products because the algorithm assumes that they may be having issues with their self-image, and so it queues up a money-making opportunity for their advertisers. And so this algorithm is quite sophisticated, but it's not sophisticated as we saw in Sesame Street, to try to close that loop. It's not sophisticated in the kids' best interest. It's sophisticated in their advertisers' best interest, and they have a duty to increase the bottom line. I know that was a lot, so you don't necessarily have to respond to what I suggest here, Annette, but whatever comes up for you regarding this third phase, I'm curious what your take is, and I'll pass it to you now. I'm sorry, girl. Okay, that's a powerful share. So much I want to say, but this is not the Hassan Annette show. We are here to center the voices of our community. So I'll just do something real quick, and then I'm going to pass it to Mr. Nolan, and then I'm going to go straight to Kathy. What came up for me, I just want to say that I'm not here to judge because it is a privilege to run Educator's House as a full-time profession. It's a privilege to be able to work from home so that I can be present at his events. I can go and take him to soccer practice. It's a privilege to be able to give my son an environment where he can be out in the three-dimensional world. Not everybody has that. So I get it, and I'm not here to judge. I do hope that we can offer some tips and suggestions for parents who may not have the kind of opportunities that our kids have, so that they can at least consider what their options are. If not, yeah, I'll just leave it there. Let me pass this mic along. So, Mr. Nolan, I'm sure a few things have come up, but we're moving into the moderated discussion. So we're going to be passing the mic around a lot, and so I'm excited to see what the community has to say. I'll start with Mr. Nolan and straight to Kathy. Mr. Nolan, the mic is yours. Tell us your age, bro. Tell us without telling us. Yes, sir. I remember those. That part. That part. Mm. Like together at the same time? That sounds so unusual. Who does that in the same space and having conversation with each other? You wild it out, boy. Mm, yeah. Mm. It hits different. Yeah, man, it hits different when someone that you love sees you accomplish something. It just hits different. Let me pass it on. Thank you, Mr. Nolan, and thank you for coming. Feel free to leave anytime, but we'd love to have you back, of course. Cassie, I don't want to overtalk. I want to keep this mic moving. So if you're ready, the mic is yours. Mm. I know what you're saying. Mm-hmm. That's great. Mm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. And the tech is so good now that they have on their phone now something that looks like a calculator, but if you put in the right equation, it takes you to this like hidden app of files, where you can hide things from your parents. So the tech even encourages this sort of resistance against parental authority, and so it's really wild. Let me do this though, Kat. Yep. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. But it's worth it. Yeah, it's definitely worth it. Let me pass this mic around. Miss Cleo came up, and so I want to honor you. And also, Stefan has been so patient, and so I'm very curious because, matter of fact, we might lean in a little bit, Stefan. So be ready because I might be coming for you. And then my boy JD is in the building. Oh, man, this is about to get good. So maybe we'll do a little bit of after party. Maybe we might need to go overtime because it seems like this is an important conversation, and I don't want to cut it off prematurely. And I see Black to Glory is back in the building as well, so I'm glad that you're here, my bro. Okay, so Miss Cleo, let me start with you, and then I'll come to you, Stefan, and then JD, I'll come to you in just a bit. Miss Cleo, welcome to the space. We're glad that you're here. I know you got a lot going on, and so I don't know if you can even come or if you're mostly in listen-only mode, but I offer you the mic to see if anything came up for you. If you're available, Miss Cleo, mic is yours. I know. I'm sure it's a lot. But we are here with you, my dear, and hopefully we can carry you across putting all those books in the box. But what I will say to honor Miss Cleo, she joins us typically on the morning show, and so she has weighed in a lot in the lead up to this conference. So if you slide over to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to hear Miss Cleo's voice, and she's contributed a lot to this journey. And so shout out to you, my dear, and we appreciate you. Aw, shucks. Stefan Youngblood, you have a moment, sir? I'm curious because we have had our fair share of discussions, and of course, I can't drag everyone down our deep, deep rabbit hole. But generally speaking, is there anything that comes up for you writ large before I tackle you with some of the questions that we've been struggling with? Mm, Mm. Eek. Ouch. Ooh. Ooh. Let me play a little bit of audio. This is audio from a tech billionaire and his experience with allowing his kids to be on the algorithm. Check this out, and then I'll come to you, JD. Period. So to you, Stefan Youngblood, I think you're right, and those who are creating the algorithm don't even want their kids on it, and so it's a real thing. But let me keep this mic moving because we've got a few. Of course, of course. Hmm. Uh-oh. I think we lost him. This app be apping. So if he comes in, we'll recenter him. But I'll keep the mic moving to my man JD. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, sir. I don't even think I need to lead you with a question. I will just pass you this microphone. What has come up for you, my good friend James Denniston? The mic is yours. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Mm, mm, No, that is a profound question, and I have something to say about it. But I know that my dear friend and colleague Annette is short on time, so I want to pass it to her. If you want to respond, you're welcome to, but maybe you have something of your own that you want to share, and then I can loop back around to James, and then I'm going to go to Tide and Black, just so that you guys know what the order is going to be. And Annette, why don't you lean on this first? You know what it is, girl. Yeah. Shout out to Annette. Bow, 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 bow. I want to do this, and I know I can't speak for Annette, but first off, could we just flood the chat? Anybody who has a working thumb, could you just flood the chat with your favorite emoji as a demonstration of our appreciation for her coming and weighing in on this topic? She is highly skilled in this space. And I don't want to speak for her, so I will ask it in the form of a question, because I do believe that we have a community of parents who are concerned about this situation. If any of the people who are listening to this live go onto your website and reach out to you, would you be willing to offer, let's say, 30 minutes of your time as a free consultation to see if perhaps it's a good match, and if they want to hire you on? Is that something that could be interesting to you? And I hate to do this publicly on the stage, but it might be a way to drive folks in your direction. Okay, so if you are live, drop her an email, and she may be able to fit you into her schedule and offer some feedback. I can't sell her time, but I think, a 30-minute talk just to see kind of where she's at. You can explain where you're at, and then perhaps if you want to actually bring her on as a consultant to really help you through this journey, I think it would be a very good use of your time. She's worked with me and given me fantastic advice, and so even though this is not a paid endorsement, as a person who knows, likes, and trusts her, I just want to offer that it would be wise for you to lean in on her expertise. But I haven't forgotten about James, and I want to make sure that I also acknowledge Tide and Black. I'll get to you guys soon. So there's a couple things, James, that I think are important for me to lay out. As an adult, our post-25 adults, our brains are far less plastic. And so while we do have that euphoric experience, like taking that first drag from a cigarette, or that little bit of euphoria as you're just about to scratch off your lotto scratcher, that kind of a thing comes up in us, and we may experience mild versions of withdrawal. And keep in mind, there's no way to avoid that withdrawal. But when we talk about what's going on in kids' brains, and by kid I mean less than 25, because their brains are so plastic, it's laying in those neural pathways to a degree that they may not be able to recover without significant withdrawal symptoms. And so I want to offer that withdrawal, I think, is part of it. And what I learned is there is this, forgive the sadist in me, but there is a very interesting relationship between pleasure and pain. And so when we, let's say, drink too much alcohol and then we feel that hangover, that's the body balancing out those chemicals. So it's not necessarily the alcohol that creates the hangover, but it is actually your body's response to the alcohol that is balancing out those pleasure chemicals with pain chemicals. And so we experience physical pain. And so in that way, and this is kind of the point that I want to land on so that we can push it around, what I have noticed, according to the research that I've done and the hours that I've spent in this space, what used to happen back in the day, let's call it hundreds of thousands of years ago, before all of this technology was even on our radar, we as human beings had to do a lot of upfront work. We had to put in the pain for that little bit of dopamine pleasure, as has kind of come up in this room already. So the monkey had to climb the tree in order to get to the banana. It was a lot of work for a little reward. What we have done, and according to my claim, is we have reversed that pleasure-pain balance in the brain, where you have to go through something and then you can experience some pleasure. It's been reversed. What we are doing is we're providing them with so much of the pleasure chemicals that it only takes a little bit of pain to set them off. And so when it was a lot of pain for a little bit of pleasure, now it's a lot of pleasure and we can only sustain a little bit of pain. And so the kids these days are so sensitive, so soft, according to our judgment, right? Because we come from a different world. But these kids are easily triggered. They don't like to pay attention. They're not going to listen. They're quite rebellious. And so all of that dopamine has made them, their pain sensors so sensitive that there's this real reversal after the hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary biology to get the brain to work this way. And then along comes this technology, which kind of flips the seesaw in the other direction. And so I think from a generational perspective on mass, it's going to take a lot of intentional effort on our part to make withdrawals. And so I'll close with this, and then maybe you can respond, James, and then we'll pass it on. I think that's fair to do. You know how some cities have these like safe stations for safe drug use, where instead of having the heroin addict take it on the street with some unknown quantity, what they will do is be able to go to these safe stations where it's safe and clean, you know the drugs are pure, with the intention that you can slowly wean them off of it to the degree that they can then manage on their own. I think there's some sort of a process like that. So if we have our kids who are just so deep off up into the technology, we've got to kind of create a space where instead of doing it cold turkey, which you know leads back to recidivism, finding other alternatives to balance that time out and slowly guide them back into the three-dimensional world, you know. So that would be my thoughts on it. Did you want to respond to anything that I offered, James, before I pass it to Tide Tutoring? Yeah, it's too late, bro. It's over. We're cooked. We're done. Tide Tutoring, thanks for your patience. Let me pass it to you. Mike is yours. Hey, dear. I'm so glad you brought that up, and I appreciate it. And it's absolutely true. And keep in mind, the technology may create an addictive pattern. I see you back, Black. I want to actually let me do this. I actually want to center Sister Sue, and then Black. Maybe we can spend some extended time because you dropped a lot of good stuff in the chat that I think we can walk down. Sister Sue, when you spoke, if you're available, and I see you too, Miss Cleo, to jump in on this, you talked about the big business aspect of this and how the people who provide these medications, like the Ritalin, they're incentivized to keep your kids on drugs and to turn them into pharmaceutical drug addicts, if not the technological drug addicts. Did you want to weigh in a little bit more on what you meant by that, since it kind of came up again, Sister Sue, or should we keep it pushing?
4 of them were to the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor. However, and that was a 3 year process. And I was the only one that did not get to do my capstone project, which was a simple survey in SurveyMonkey. Does humor work for you?
Hmm.
And that is many, many meanings. Does it work for us as an individual? Does it work for us as parents, as coworkers? And is it working for our workplace and in society?
Wow.
So we're certainly being dumbed down because everybody makes profits in the mutual aid network. So check out the mutual funds. They particularly exploit the worker, the W 2 worker, saying, oh, we're concerned Social Security isn't going to be enough for you. It might not even be around. So invest in our mutual funds. Those are safe. But if you look at them, they're all linked: banking, insurance, big pharma, fuel,
Hmm.
industrialization of food and FDA approved products. Then they offer free wellness screenings, health fairs. Those are the feeder systems.
Hmm.
Oh, you're pre this. Oh, you're pre that. Oh, let's take this depression scale. Oh, let's take this anxiety scale. They're looking for how they can get medications and more complex treatments, and and they don't do the Everyone Counts game show. So it's really fun and funny that they have created their own. I mean, that's in a perverse gallows sense of humor, because they have created their own data chain. And I have 15 years in of offers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyway, I'm just available. And anybody that wants to be on the inner core, you're all approved, because I say I'm looking for intelligent life forms that have a sense of humor and that will all help each other look up and post the links and the resources. So we're looking at issues from 360 degrees, and we're coming and we're not yelling at each other. We're not, we're it's social emotional character development at its finest. The children know how to do it.
Right.
And they, so if we make them like the so it uses the breakout rooms and it fits into the TV hour, or we can even do half hours or 15-minute breaks.
Hey,
There's
Sister Sue.
all the ways to collaborate and innovate. Okay, I'll close my mic.
No,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you. I know you're an expert in the space, and so I appreciate your value add. But I know Miss Cleo might have to step out soon, so I wanted to make sure. And RJ requested that you drop your link in the chat so we can check it out. Miss Cleo, let's come straight to you. Please take your time, and then Black and I will start unpacking.
I'm sorry. I have my friend. I have people coming to help me move. So
Ah, copy that.
so I'm sorry. They just said they're on their way. So there were two things that kind of stuck out to me that I kind of just wanted to lift up, and it's this idea. I like to look on it like a societal level and ask those questions. It's the idea of like what happens when all of our kids are outside, right?
Hmm.
And I say that because there's a sense of like parents wanting to have their kids outside, but what happens when there's no other kids to be outside with them? And like, what does that look like? And how do we nurture and develop that? And how do we get more people to be on the bandwagon of outside when we know the dangers, the lack of safety, all these concerns that are outside, including just the actual air, right? The air not being nearly as safe as it used to be, let alone all the other like people things and things like that. So there's a thought about like what are we doing as a society to create a culture where we value real lifetime,
Hmm.
right? Not that the virtual space isn't real, but like in person human connection time. So that was the first thing
Hmm.
that I wanted to lift up. And then the second thing I wanted to lift up is like the impact of not having as much time and play in games where kids negotiate with each other and its impact on executive functioning. And so when you start talking about like ADHD and a lot of these other diagnoses, undercurrent there is executive functioning. Executive functioning is our ability to organize, make decisions, and there's a few other things. But part of what traditional play does for kids, even games as simple as tag and when kids like ideate and create their own games, is they learn how to negotiate when there's problems in games, how to make decisions about what we're going to do next, what we're not going to do next. They learn how to communicate with each other, how to figure out like, hey, we know we only have so much time, so this game is a better game to play. Even though I like this game more, I'm going to choose this game because I know I don't have a lot of time, or we have a whole lot of time, so maybe we should play the longer game to fill up the space. Those ideas are super, super important to what happens in like adult life. So, like when you're managing time, when you're prioritizing, when you're figuring out like who to employ to do different things, like being able to see you have a skill set, like so playing game when you're playing on teams, those are things you naturally do, is like, hey, you're really good at this, like let's say just the four moderators, like Hassan, you're really good at this, so I'm going to have you do this. Annette, you're good at this. Carla, you're good at that. Those are things that actually are nurtured through play and very early ideas of teaming and being together. And when we start to remove those things from children, you see long-term impacts on like how we socialize with each other. And I just wonder, like, what are we doing? It's one thing I love about my current school is like kids have two different specials a day across a range of different things, but we also have three times that kids have open unstructured play, because there's a lot of value on what that does for children. And this is all through elementary school. Even through high school there's elements of like just unstructured time. And I think in this testing era, and I don't know if we're going to get into this, but this idea, I think part of what's simultaneously happening, and this thought just happened, so this will be my last point,
Hmm.
is this: I don't think that we realize how much standardized testing and the want to like hold air quotes teachers accountable really is also something that's at play here with a lot of these digital things that schools end up purchasing into, to make sure kids make the grade and are able to do X, Y, and Z, all of that stuff. I do think there's some connection into in standardized testing and the over reliance on that and telling us what it means to be successful and leaving out things like character and things like that. So I'll land there, but thank you for letting me share. Um, yeah.
Woo. You cooking up. That sounds like a whole nother room. So maybe when we get to the issue of ed tech, we can really talk about that concept of, this how we're grading, how we're framing success. I did a little piece on equitable grading. I think that was a hot mess, but that was more in my DEI space. But when we come to the issue of tech, I think it's a very valid question. Um, oh, black to glory. Oh boy. Hello, my friend. Let me give
How you
greetings to the
doing?
room, and then I think we can cook. So I see a
Yeah,
lot
go
of
ahead.
pink tickets. Terrence, She Evolved, my Alicia, Effective 20. Thank you guys for coming in. I hope we've added some value. Seems like you guys have been hanging out for a little while. If you want to join the house, you're welcome to. Just scroll up to the top and turn in your pink ticket. But I want to drive you off the app towards the YouTube channel. That way you can check out the replays. We do long form, so if you got a commute, it would be a great podcast style for you to listen in and kind of get caught up on what we've been discussing. Black to Glory, though, is a heavy hitter. My man got the heavy hand with the research links. He seems to be my brother from another mother. And so, Black, where do we begin, sir? I hate to ignore the rest of the crowd, but I think you've been so patient that maybe we can center your voice for a while. What comes up for you, generally speaking, as we've made it this far in the journey, sir?
Of course, my phone wants to go off in the background. I would say, the obviously I have a slightly different perspective
Mm-hmm.
on. I agree with like everything that everyone said is is spot on with their takes on everything. I'm more coming at it from a what I could use last time, a neurocultural standpoint,
Okay.
which is a study that I'm doing in the background. And what it ultimately is when we look at the algorithm and we're talking about addiction, generally addiction is on the cognitive level. But what I'm saying is that the addiction is a symptom, not the source. The algorithm isn't the source. The algorithm is merely also a symptom, and just along with the addiction. And so what we're seeing is that if we look at the link, that's why I dropped the links early, so we didn't want to have to rush and find them.
Mm-hmm.
And we look at cultures from around the world who deal with social media and their children, we see that there's two ways they go. You have children in isolation in poor and third world countries that have the same issues as we do here in America with behavioral body imagery issues. However, when you look at the other direction, you will see that not only did the children's self esteem improve, it's the whole culture was in on it. And the main difference was the navigating of the digital space with guidance. So culture plays a massive role in how we educate children. Of course, that's what the village takes a village to raise a child. So when we look at the issues with social media, I would say I would take a step back and say, what is the role that the children play in your culture or in your family? And are there do they feel needed, wanted, feel like they're a part of something? And this is what I call neuroceptive neuro imperatives. These are things that every person must have, and that's children included. So when we look at why are they addicted in the first place, why do the algorithms have so much influence on the children?
Mm.
But we see from the studies, as long as they're being guided through and you can see their cultural expression and the parents are there telling them, if they're seeing certain content, they are still guiding that whole process. It's what I'm not sure who, I think it was maybe Annette who was saying it earlier, but there's no choice but to be more involved in your children's lives and making sure, even as an adult, it's the same thing. It's speaking to a an unmet need that it's being fulfilled by the algorithm instead of your culture or your tribe or whatever close knit community you have. Because even before the algorithms, these issues were still there. I think the algorithm only exacerbated what was already bubbling underneath.
Like it
So
lowered,
if we
the low hanging fruit got even lower
exactly,
yeah, I got you. Yeah.
it was a low hanging fruit because we know that we have high rates of depression, high rates of anxiety. Both of these map directly to needing the belonging, feeling of safety, and when the algorithm is there, it just blew that up. And the same thing with the children. they're raising themselves because there's so much work. It's so much things that
But
have to be
Black,
done that parents aren't there
let me
because
ask you
it's just
this.
very hard because of the economy.
There's something about the Titanic, and I think there may be an analogy here. There might have been some minutes when the captain realized, oh shit, we about to hit this thing. And so I wonder, what came up for me when you were sharing was, because this is a societal thing. It's not like it's just happening to my cousin and them, right? This is happening writ
Exactly.
large. And so has the Titanic, it's hard to turn the Titanic on a dime. Even if you figure it out, if you figure it out too late, you're going to hit that thing. Have we come so far that there needs to be some sort of a significant crash of some sort in order to undo this? Or is there an actual pathway where culture can compete? Because like I said, as I've sort of discussed in my previous analogy, the fruit to get this easy dopamine, to have this as an easy replacement. I mean, a well-meaning parent who just needs a few hours would give that thing to their kid, and it's easy to give it to them the second time, and it's easier to give it to them the third time, and then the next thing you know, they're hooked. So what are your thoughts about that? Is there a way to peel it back, or do you expect there needs to be a crash? I hate to be so extreme with it, but I'm curious your thoughts because you've looked into it.
No, I think it's a great question because I don't believe the algorithm different approach of how I look at it. The algorithm isn't the issue. It only showed the cracks in the culture. Culture is the solution. And that's like my whole study that I'm doing is how culture is the solution to many of the problems we see today. Because when you look at pathologies in the Western world versus more traditional places, they're night and day. But why is that? You have this very close-knit community where your nervous system attaches value to what is repeated. It's a behavioral system. You can't cognitively talk to your nervous system, but it's still doing all the work because it's pre-conscious. So as we go through culture, we're seeing what our value is. Our value comes from our parents, and it comes from the village, and it comes from the activities we engage in. That's where we get our value from. But when that is missing or has been significantly weakened, our value then can be come in through some other external mechanism, which right now is the algorithm. So I would say the algorithm isn't the issue. The lack of culture or the weakened culture is the issue. And when we have a tight-knit community of that satisfies our neural imperatives, which you can look at them as Maslow's hierarchy of needs for simplicity,
right?
Then everything that comes into play will be shielded, and you create a psychological resistance against any algorithmic activities or events, aftermath,
So
or side effects.
no, it's a powerful tool, and the fact that Jason and others seem to be agreeing, I think you're cooking onto something here. So I appreciate it. I see Effective 20 came up, and so I wanna honor you. But before I do so, shout out to, I've sent invites out. Just know it's a no pressure space. So if you want to come up and weigh in, you're welcome to. Black. I don't know. I have to sit with that for a while because and let me sit with that because you might be onto something, and maybe it's my own limited beliefs that just can't accept that. I believe I don't stand 10 toes, but I'm like 6.5 toes, right? 5 toes and a pinky on the other foot. Down on this idea that it's actually been a hijacking. And because we're so deep, we're a whole generation deep into this, the parents, I'm a bit older, but they're younger parents who are digital natives, and now they have kids. So it's like, I'll share this little story, then I'll pass it over to Effective 20. My grandma, let me back up. My mama taught me how to cook a roast, and she would always cut the ends off the roast. And I didn't know why, but I just started cutting the ends off the roast. And then my son, I'm teaching him how to cook a roast, and I'm cutting the ends off. And he says, Dad, why are you cutting the ends off the roast? And I say, I don't know. Ask my mama. She taught me how to do it. So he goes to Grandma, why do you guys cut the ends off the roast? She says, well, my mama taught me. So he goes to Great Grandma, why do you guys cut the ends off the roast? There's good stuff on the ends. And she says, well, I cut the ends off the roast because my pan was too small. And so generation after generation, we start doing it not because it makes any sense, but just because that's what's been modeled for us. So I'm just concerned about the hijacking. Can I sit with that? Because I'm so uncomfortable right now, Black. You're
All right, let me land with this then.
land with this. And effective 20, you can pick it right up because I know I'm taking too much
Yeah,
time in the struggle. Go ahead, Black, and then
yeah.
effective 20.
Let me, okay, so your neural imperatives are stability, safety, belonging, recognition, and usefulness purpose.
Hold
So the
on. Let me write
algorithms,
that down. Stability. Let me write
yeah,
this one down. I'm gonna study this.
stability,
Safety.
safety,
I'm with you.
belonging,
Belonging.
recognition,
Recognition.
and usefulness slash purpose.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm ready.
Those are your neural imperatives. These things must be met. And
Mm.
generally, your culture is what provides all of these
Mm.
when you have a tight knit culture. With a weakened culture, these things start to loosen up and you get outside influence that can come in. So, the way you repattern the nervous system is through behavior. I think again what Annette was saying. You have to spend the time with the children or even as an adult with activities or rituals that are repetitive behaviors that have meaning behind them. So
Mm.
not just repetitive, but they have some type of significance. And so when you do that, it repatterns the nervous system to create where it draws its value from, and it will weaken the effect or resist against the algorithm.
Mm.
So as long as you have those activities that are doing repeatedly, your whole nervous system will repattern and reorient itself accordingly. Just like the audio you played, once he got him off of it, the kid started playing again, and he was
Mm-hmm.
able to go out and do what he had to do and be a child. But if you're so far gone, especially as an adult, it's a little bit harder. There has to be a deliberate action to do these things. It's
Yeah.
not something passive, but it doesn't take long either. So
Okay.
I'll land with that. So it's
Nah,
just you got to have a tight culture or at least a ritual to satisfy your neural imperatives.
that's a good frame. I can wrap my head around that. Effective 20. Why don't you take this mic? Mic is yours. Thank you for your
Okay.
patience.
Thank you so
Also.
much.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so first of all, I want to greet Hussein. It's been a long time. I really miss you, and I'm happy to be back and to add you to my friends. So, the discussion is very important, and I've listened to what Black said, and it makes sense. If you come to my country, I live in Ghana, Africa. If you come to my country, most of the children that we have tend to become very, very disciplined because of our culture.
Hmm.
Even though the school system is adding up, but it is little. So I think that when our culture is being well understood and is being well aligned, and all the ingredients is being effective, I think our children will be able to fight this kind of digital malnutrition. So I think we need to tighten our culture and also not to change our culture. Previously, we used to have the system of disciplining children by lashing them, but nowadays we don't have it again. So the discipline level is drawing back. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
And moreover, to because of the internet connectivity and the internet exposure, children tend to misbehave. But I think if the culture is being done effectively, it can curtail this kind of undiscipline from the social media space. So I agree with Black. Our culture needs to be realigned. We need to go back to our old age. Even though we are moving to a new age, we need to go back to our new age of discipline. I think that will help to curtail these kind of issues that we have in this digital world. And this is what I have to say.
I appreciate it. I feel like Black is my brother, and I'd be like, whatever, bro. But now, effective 20, I'm actually going to listen to you. You must be right. Okay, so effective 20 had a great idea, and I believe everything that he just said. No, I'm joking. Annette, I'd like to come back to you. I mean, you're a featured speaker, and the community has brought up a lot. Perhaps it's inappropriate for me to say, what can you respond to? But maybe something came up within you that could be worthy of a share. So Annette, and then I'd like to hear from my other co-moderator, Carla. What are your guys' thoughts about what you've heard so far? So Annette, I'll start with you. If you have a response or something that came up, the mic is yours.
Yeah, Husan, I will respond directly to some of what Black just shared
Oh Lord,
because
no, I'm
I
joking.
think, excuse,
I'm just being messy. Don't pay me no mind, please, Annette.
oh my gosh,
Get this mic out of my hand, woman.
oh my gosh. So I think he and I are in alignment as it relates to the importance of the homes and the infrastructure that must be laid in order to protect children across the board from the very things in which we're speaking of. He also spoke to being a little bit more critical about the why around this conversation, why the algorithms have the weight that they do, which I thought was very powerful because I think more often than not we focus on the results or the outcome, but not necessarily how did it get there? Why is it seeping into children the way in which it is? Why have families allowed for this quote unquote infiltration to take place? So I thought that was very powerful, and I felt like we were very much in alignment as it relates to the importance of the family, the importance of your culture, and the importance of when the appropriate things are instilled in your children. I believe, and I think what I was hearing from him too, that there is less of a chance of these external pieces being able to seep into your children as it relates to algorithms, TikTok, etc., and social media.
Mm. I just came up with a brilliant idea. You know what? If we offer stability, safety, belonging, recognition, and usefulness, I think we can combat the algorithm. It just came to me, just like that. Shout out to you, Black. It seems like I'm settling into this concept. Okay, so I appreciate it. Let me pass it over to Carla, my other fellow co-mod, and then I'm going to go down to Penny Love, and then she evolved, and Stefan joined us back, so something new may have come up. Carla, you've been so patient. You helped us open up this room. You have heard a lot as you've walked this journey down with me. What's come up for you at this stage? I'd love to pass you the mic now if you're available.
Thank you. I've heard so much, and I have a lot of thoughts. I don't even know where to begin, right? So it's more maybe a recap of what I'm hearing and how I'm feeling about it. But as I listened, I had this imagination of this sci-fi movie where the internet was engaging our children, but then it was transporting them. They would vanish into this digital world, pixel by pixel, and the parents didn't even notice it because they were engrossed in their own things, right? And I guess that's just vivid imagination because as I listen to people, that's kind of what I'm hearing, that we're potentially losing our children and we have to re-engage. And I think that the work being done by Educators House is a wake-up call to that, not just to acknowledge the impact of technology, but to challenge us to sit with the extent of that impact and how we as adults are contributing to it, right? So the algorithms almost become those invisible hands that are shaping what our children see, think, and desire. And they're doing what they're designed to do. So we blame them, but they're doing what they're designed to do, to grab their attention. They're not designed to protect the children's innocence or to teach them responsibility or to cultivate values.
Mm.
So, why are we blaming the algorithm? It's doing its job, right?
Mm.
So, the algorithm overfeeds the brain with stimulation, flashing content, endless scrolls, lights, like a slot machine. Think of a gambler in Las Vegas, right? Some of the same reactions that high, let it ride, all on red. You may know it's not good, but I gotta play one more
Yeah.
time. So, but we see gambling as harmful, but we see online gaming as harmless. And now you're challenging us to rethink that and reshape that thinking. So, for children, you talked about disrupting sleep, rewiring attention spans, lowering emotional regulation, creating false sense of self. And then when they try to unplug, they just feel this anxiousness
So
and
that logic.
they lose it. And so for me, in summary, it's like screen time isn't it's not about the screen time, it's about the slow decay of the mental, emotional, and even spiritual health of our children. It's diminishing them of opportunities for character building, esteem boosting, and engagement of all the five senses in learning. And I know we're going to talk about it, right? Who we blame. Do we blame big tech? We blaming advertisers and, there's going to be accountability to be had. But something I said when you first started Educator's House and we were talking about the responsibility of educating our children. And it's funny that one of my statements then is the same now. We can't hold the teachers and the educational system to blame for all of what our children are not getting because educational fundamentally starts in the home.
Mm.
So I think we have to get back to that. The algorithm may know our child's habits, but we got to know our child's heart. The algorithm, we may be giving them access to screens, but we've got to now give them access to standards. We teach them to click before we teach them to care. We buy them phones when they need our presence. So we've got to make a change. And I heard people saying it. Stop turning our heads. We got to lean in. We got to teach media literacy. We have to co-watch, co-play, talk. We have to get involved. And I think if we spread out our options to our children, the way we grew up with balance, family time, games, trips, conversation, sports, dance, art, music, and technology was one ingredient in the cake. It was just the right amount of sugar. It wasn't the sugar overload that they're getting today because they lack everything else. So, in summary, technology is here. It's not going away. We will either master it or it will own us. Because unlike those of us who grew up on that cusp, having the balanced diet, right? These people that we're talking about now, our children, they're going to become the parents. And if something does not change, this will be the norm for them. And what we're seeing as an epidemic will likely become the next pandemic, killing off brain cells and robbing children of the potential that God created them to be.
Maybe you guys are getting some value out of this, and it has been a real pleasure to guide us down this, slow walk this thing down. And for me personally, I started to lose the light, and you guys are showing me some alternative, showing me that there's color beyond the allegory of the cave. And I really do stand in deep gratitude. If this is a mission that you want to support, I dropped the link above, and it's also in the chat. Your generous support is greatly appreciated. I'm not here to center that because really I'm on a growth phase. I want to get beyond the walls of Clubhouse and let people who've never heard about Educator's House tune them in. So what I would really appreciate, even though I have the donation if you're a cheerful giver, my real call to action is to take one of the links from the YouTube channel. It's slow growing, but maybe share it with somebody, because I think what we're doing here really needs to get out beyond the little walls that we're in right now. So I'm on a growth phase, and I would appreciate you guys helping me to share. I also want to encourage, once again, tap into Annette. She has way more than this little feature, the short time that she shared with us. She is a deep well of knowledge and experience and practical application of skills that can help with the healthy rearing of children. And I trust her implicitly, and I would recommend that you at least tap in with her and find out how she can be a support to you. Okay, we've got She Evolved up here on the stage, and I'm so glad that you came up. Shout out to Terrence Anderson. And Michael Garrison. You guys are welcome to come up onto the stage if time permits, but it is a no pressure space, so you're super good wherever you are. She Evolved. We've done so much today, and I'm really interested to hear what's come up for you. So if you are available, the mic is yours.
Can I just say thank you for this conversation? It's so insightful. I love that my algorithm brought you my way, and I encourage it, and I'm following the house. I will support Carla and Annette. Oh my God.
Amazing.
I'm a parent. I'm raising two young boys. Everything, including what Black has mentioned, has been so profound. I recognize that we're living in a generation of immediate gratification. They don't have the graph, they don't have to do things the way we had to because there's so much support tools. But with algorithm, I totally understand how it can have an impact on rewiring their thinking, but also reflecting what their intentions or where their desires are going. Because again, it's kind of like feeding into the monster. I think for me, it's being aware, and it's also incorporated everything Black mentioned. So, for example, the key one that really stood out for me was about purpose. Why are we doing what we're doing? What value does it bring to our life, and how are we going to incorporate that? So, like today, most Sundays, either one of my boys take their time to cook and the other one cleaned. But that is like our opportunity to kind of like bond and talk. We play music. It's not even it's not it's and I it's not about screen time. It's about talking about the current affairs or what we've come up, what's been coming up. Like I even try and learn some of the slang. I'm in the UK. There's like a whole vocabulary that I'm still trying to get my head around, but I learn it from them, and it's through engagement and time. Like today, I'm exhausted, but it was so much to take in, and what I really got from them is their brains are like sponges. They're doing so much all at once, and it's like I feel like I have to grow with them. I can't always come in with my mindset, but for me, I have to be the grounding.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be the touch earth, and I have to take them off of that flight rush of trying to get into all of it, because if they lose sight of that, then they're not even able to kind of like reflect or know where to apply it, because the algorithm and technology will offer you so much. I even feel like they're overwhelmed with information all too soon, and they're still students. They're going to school. The skills are all incorporated, because I think not I think I can see we're headed to a digital lifestyle where technology will be incorporated in every way, even the way we think. Like they have apps that are writing essays for them, and it's like the grounding. Let's not forget how to learn how to write. So I might get my son to write down a shopping list at least, and it's so much more bigger now, because as parents we're not just teaching life skills. We are we're kind of sewing together everything, but we have to be ever present and very self-aware. So like for example, I once a week I sit down with my son and I play the video games,
Mm.
and we talk, and I can see where all his excitement and also his mood, and how it kind of creates a balance. So it's not so much screen time. Before I used to think it was, oh, not time off screen. They're both learning how to play instruments. I just think anything that keeps them grounded, get their hands active. My dad, he schooled in Nigeria, and he was telling me how he got the opportunity to learn how to grow yam.
Mm.
And what was profound for me is he got to like be in a natural space where he had to learn the patience of of how things like cultivate. So he had to, his education was very hands on, and not so much about the way of life right now. And he's the most patient person I know. And I think that living in a fast forward world, they still need to be able to take a step back and articulate and slow down. So my Sundays are usually where everybody's kind of huddled around the kitchen.
Yeah.
We cook, we clean together, we talk. And this conversation has just given me so much. I will go back and listen to the replays. Um, and just try and bring in more. So I think as a parent, you also need a village
Right.
of other parents to keep supporting you and grow with your children. That's what I find myself doing. They're growing in a time where screen time, meaning you can see someone from the other side of the world. When I was their age, that was like watching Back to the Future. But in their world, this is normal. We had CDs and blockbusters. Now they stream everything. So the fast forwardness means they don't really slow down to absorb things. I remember when I bought my first CD, the cracking in of the case, opening up and looking at all the different pictures. Now artists are streaming songs so quickly, they're just kind of scrolling past. It kind of depreciates the process of what it means to go into things. So the slowing down moment. And then the last thing I'll say, something my son did today, made me aware of why your home environment has to be a stimulus to their thinking. During the lockdown, I was playing like a lot of old school, like 80s,
Mm.
90s records. And I was saying to him, don't forget to, put the plates back. I was giving him a list and he just interrupted me and he was like, I know, 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 I know. I was like,
Oh, that's
I was like,
beautiful.
oh, well, at least you know that.
Yeah, it's
At least
sinking
you know
in.
that. So yeah, and I was like, he didn't realize because I had this stuff spinning on repeat during lockdown just to kind of keep our minds off of stuff. So we didn't do that enough, and I was like, okay, so that's cemented in his mind
Yeah.
as a response and as a song that I to reinforce it in today's world. It I don't know. It's the way he brought it up and the way he applied it in his own way. Our kids are not going to be us. They're becoming a version of themselves. The algorithm, it can be utilized as a tool rather than a weapon. I don't
Yeah.
want to be afraid of it. I want to know how to support them to make it work for them.
Oh,
This technology it could be the very thing they use to become better than us, but not to be enslaved by it. That's all I have to say. Thank you for this conversation.
no, no, thank you. I'm so glad that you shared that because that story highlighted what Black talked about: stability, safety, a sense of belonging, being recognized, and being useful. That was a perfect example, a real world use case of these six, five, six concepts that he brought up. So very well placed, perfect timing. While you were speaking, I was very happy to see Annette drop her Cash App. So this, I feel a lot more comfortable today making this the financial call to action. If there is a cheerful giver out there who can add to supporting Annette, this would be the right way to do it. So don't hit mine, hit hers, and drop whatever. There's no minimum. And I'm sure there's no maximum. You can go up to $2,000 if you want. Okay, hit her up. But yes, I would call my community to demonstrate that there's value in this community for experts like Annette to come into this space. She came here volunteering her time. And so, as a community, if we could chip in a little bit and support her in her mission, I would really appreciate you guys for that call to action. We haven't heard from Jason. I think we've sort of cleared the stage. Shout out to everybody who's here. Michael Garrison, I'm kind of sad that you didn't come up. I would love to hear your voice. Ask GG, welcome back as well. I'm glad that you guys are here, but I understand the listen only experience. So I just want to greet you and say that I appreciate you and I recognize you for sharing your time with us. Jason, we haven't heard from you and a lot has come up. So as we land, maybe you could give us, 1 to 2 minutes of your thoughts on either what has come up or what you think are some solutions, if you're available, sir.
Yes, I think everybody made good points. I basically concluded, and I taught at a private high school called Kingdom Covenant Academy, 2011. I'll be completely transparent. I had a nervous breakdown teaching because I was teaching kids in in a private school that was after last chance school. These are kids that got kicked out of the public school system
Hmm.
for either fighting or truancy, and I only lasted a few weeks. Honestly, it was like the hardest job because I didn't know what it was like really to struggle in school. So when I had these, like for instance, and it was small class sizes, and I still failed. I had 5 students in one class. I left because I wasn't that great with the planning, and I went. I remember I went to photocopy because I was a little bit behind because I wasn't that good at all of the prep.
Administrative stuff. Yeah.
And I came back. One of the students was under the table, and I was like, "Oh, this is." It was just great. And you know what it's like if a girl is under a boy's table. So, I imagine somebody got pregnant in my class at a Christian private school. I had one student in grade 10 math, and I had gotten 100% in grade 10 math. He had gotten zero because he was in gangs and got kicked out. So I just had a nervous breakdown, and I broke down in the pandemic when I got let go from my software job. I broke down the 7 biblical principles for success that won me 7 scholarships, and I think that they correspond to what a lot of people said. Like paying attention is the number one thing that the algorithms wreak havoc with. But if the parents are not paying attention to their kids, then that's why the kids are susceptible. So it is, in a sense, true. You can't blame the casinos for the kids gambling. Why the heck are they? Why the heck are they there?
Mm. It's a
Right.
fair,
So
yeah.
like they're not there if you're taking care of them. So they shouldn't be like um, with some guy in I don't know, in Botswana on the phone in her bedroom when you don't know. So it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So it just really comes down to not paying attention to the kids, the biggest thing. And so I'm launching a solution. I sold my house twice for it. If people think I'm vocal, I really put my money where my mouth is. My whole house twice, and I still haven't met anybody else that's done that. I haven't gotten any support for 3 years. I'm not invested in Microsoft stock. I'm invested in young people. And if anybody wants to join me, I'm in the line for the shelter right now. And I don't regret it. I would do it again.
It's a
But I do want
powerful.
people to help me. I'm launching Freedom Fridays in September. I'm done speaking.
No, it's a powerful concept, and the best investment that you can make is in our kids. And so a couple things come up for me, and I think this would be a good time for us to do something remarkable. So for the last segment, I asked my fellow stage mates to think about how you can button this conference up into a sentence or a phrase, something that is worthy of remark that you could share with your friend or colleague or teacher bestie, to let them know the kind of good stuff that's happening here at Educator's House. The algorithm is doing its job. I stole that from Carla. A fast forward world. I stole that from, I forget, she evolved, right? And where is the smartest investment to be made? Stole that from Jason. So those are some examples of what it means to do something remarkable. So as we prepare to land this plane, shout out to everybody who's been cooking in the chat, everybody who's on YouTube watching us in real time, and those of you who are in the listening lounge. I honor you and I really do appreciate you. But let's finish up with something remarkable. I'll start from the bottom and work our way up the stage. So she evolved. If you were talking to a friend and you had a phrase or a sentence to share about this experience, how would you put it into a nutshell? Mike is yours.
Grow with your children. As they're growing, you're growing and reparenting yourself and then preparing them. So, yeah.
I love that. Thank you. Effective 20. Let's hear your remarkable statement. All right. Effective. Yeah.
Okay. So, to me personally, I'm okay with all the remarks everybody has given.
Hmm.
I don't really have much to say. Um, I really appreciate. I really appreciate.
Yeah, I stand in gratitude for you as well, sir. I'm glad that you're back. I've missed you. We're back, my friend. So get us in your calendar because I think there's a lot more that we have to offer. And also, shout out to the international audience as well. So I really stand in deep gratitude that we're reaching out to the rest of the world. That's amazing. Black to Glory. Let's hear your remarkable thought.
Culture is the solution to all individual problems.
This man done took my 4 toes and he's 14 toes down on the power of culture. I think this needs to be a multi-part series because I really need to catch up with what you're putting down, man. Thank you for pushing my thinking beyond its current limits. Jason, give me your one sentence or phrase. What's remarkable here?
It's remarkable that we have a lot of consensus, but that doesn't change the world. Action does. My name is Jason, and I'm done teaching.
Thank God it's this decade, my friend. Let's pass it over to Annette.
Lay the proper foundation and infrastructure so your children are in the world but not of the world. I rest my mic.
Ooh, she didn't rest it. She dropped that mug on all of us. Thank you, my dear. Let's go to Carla. Carla, what is your remarkable thought as we close?
I think you said it, Hassan, that the algorithm is doing what it's designed to do. Now it's our turn to do our part.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Educator's House. If you've made it this far, then I think you understand the kind of value that we bring. What's coming up next? So Monday morning in, golly, about 12 hours exactly, Miss Carla, we're going to be back again for the morning show called Homeroom. So you can come back for our morning show. That's 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can adjust to wherever you are in the world. We'll be live again, maybe doing a debrief because so much has come up, but really pushing forward into who's to blame. Let's look at accountability, and it might be the man or woman in the mirror. So we're going to do that slow walk, and we'll see you again for our formal conference on Sunday, but you can catch us Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning for the morning show called Homeroom. And what else can I say? I think we did it, guys. I think we did it. So thank you, everybody, and let us prepare to land this plane. So we're going to close this down. Sorry, Story, you just missed us. So catch us 2.5 hours previous, whatever time zone you're in, and you can catch the live stream, or you can catch it on the replay over on YouTube at Educator's House. We're going to close this room down in 5. I would recommend that you find 5 people that you can get in touch with and do your part to build a strong culture right within your little community. So there's 5 people that I think you can connect with that can help push this the power of culture. We're going to close this room down in 4. Keep in mind, if it was up to me, it could have been me, Carla, and Annette, and we could have had a great conversation on 3-way and just edified each other. But we do this for you, for the good of the group. And so help me share the word. Let's get this out to a much bigger audience. And so anybody that you think is mildly interested in these issues, a parent, an educator, etc., please share the room because we do this for the good of the group. Next, we're going to close this down in 3. This is not about me, but a we thing. As you can see, we do not represent an echo chamber, but there's a great diversity and nuance in our thinking. And I really do stand in gratitude to all of my stage mates for your courageous honesty, for your well-researched contributions, as well as your decorum on the stage. So thank you all. Next, we're going to close it down in 2. As the humble host of this conversation, my role is to serve. And so if I do too many resets, if I talk too much, please somebody snatch me down up off of this soapbox, okay? Drop some feedback, either positive or critical feedback in my back channel. I would certainly appreciate it because my ultimate goal is to create an environment that is safe, valuable, and productive. I hope I've done that, but your feedback can help make sure that I'm on the right track. And while I'm doing this issue of feedback, I need feedback from you. If you go over to the YouTube channel, I've been putting together posts, little 1-question surveys. The latest question deals with what should I do with some of this money? I'm about $150 away from the 10% mark. I haven't spent a single dollar of what we have raised so far in our public launch campaign, but my milestone was to get to the 10% point. And so I have 3 areas that I'm thinking about investing a portion back into the business. 100% of what we raise is for the business. My personal income is handled separately. So I'm either going to get a new camera. If you've seen the YouTube channel, you know that this camera is janka-lanka-lanka, okay? I acquired it from an old school that I used to work at. It's the doc cam when we were back on school from home. So I could upgrade the camera to increase the video quality. My second thought is to subscribe to one or more of the AI tools that I use at the free level. And so that might help accelerate some of the work that I do on the back end to create these spaces. And then my third is to hire short-term freelancer that might be able to help with some of the infrastructure building part that I need. There's a few things that I could contract out. So if you could go over to the YouTube channel and cast your vote, because I want to be responsive to the community and a good steward of your contributions, and let me know what would be the best place for me to make an initial investment back into the business. I would certainly appreciate your support over there as well. Okay, and finally, we're going to close the room down in one. Keep this in mind. You're the one. You're the reason that I do this. You're the reason that I spend my time at 4 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, to bring this content. You're the reason why I spend all these hours doing this research and hosting these conversations, because I know you're busy. You want to be a part of it, but it's not that easy in your busy life. And so here I am to stand in the gap. But I want to tell you, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving of your asset, which is time, and engage in some healthy self-care. You know, between now and the next time I see you, if you could engage in some healthy self-care, because it's always better to give unto others of your overflow than to drain out of the bottom of your bucket and to allow yourself to be stretched too thin. And so I would just offer that as my note of encouragement until the next time we meet again. Peace, everybody. Peace, peace. And to my YouTube crew, literally, if you have made it this far, I could certainly use your support. So if you could give me your feedback over in the polls, there's a whole bunch of little one question surveys that you could respond to as I begin to collect data on the various issues that we've been looking at. But one of my most pressing is that the matter of how should I reinvest? This is not my money. It's the collective money. It belongs to the house. And so how can I improve the house? Your feedback on that would be super appreciated. But listen, guys, we've done it. Please share. I'm on a growth phase now. So I am encouraging, not the donation. I made it to the 10% mark. I've shown some things. It's about the growth now. So if I can move my watch time hours up, if you can go back and watch some of the old videos, if you could help me by pushing my subscriber count up, then I can end up in people's feeds and they can stumble into the rooms and the replays that we've been doing. That would be the main metric that I'm looking to improve at this time, is to demonstrate that we have something happening here on YouTube. As you can see, we've got a community of people whose voices are piped in for the good of this group. And so I really do appreciate your support by helping us to grow. And so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and close this party down. Thanks, everybody. Peace.